Hmm. Hmm. Sorry.
Oh, hurry, dog.
All right.
Hello. Welcome back to another exciting episode of Have a Strong Weekend. I'm one of your hosts, Andrew,
And I'm your other host, Josh.
and we are at haveastrongweekend.com, and we're taking an alphabetical journey of sorts through the lost and forgotten television shows throughout TV history.
Oddball, as it were.
Oddball. Oddball. Some of them are oddball. Some of them are a little bit even
Goofy.
ball. But they're all lost and they're all forgotten until they get the Have a
Till have a
Strong
strong
Weekend treatment.
weekend.
That's right. And we're up to letter J. J.
I can't bend my J.
Start with the
J.
thing.
Yeah, J.
That thing. And that thing is
Yes.
kind of almost like a
Oh yeah.
uh,
Nike theme. Okay,
like a
perfect.
Nike
Yeah,
thing.
so letter
Like a
J, my
Nike
favorite
thing.
letter.
J is J is for Josh.
J is for Josh.
Are you excited that we got to your letter? We actually got this far.
I know. I am really excited, and this episode is going to be great. I'm
But
really pumped.
you know what? I'm a little bit disappointed that we didn't celebrate A all those weeks
Oops.
ago.
We were too confused at that time. It was the first episode.
It's true.
Too much going on. Too much stimulation. I don't know what's happening.
Well, if we do another season of this show and we focus on something else, then
if we don't get
we'll
canceled,
celebrate A.
Okay,
Maybe.
Sounds good. I'm
All
in
right.
for it.
All right, let's just earmark that for next season, if we make it that far.
Yeah.
So we're up to J, and J is for Just Shoot Me! Exclamation mark.
Wow.
Just
yeah.
Shoot Me was a show that aired from March of 1997 to November of 2003. So the show was on 6 years, 145 episodes over actually 7 years, 7 seasons. And it is set in the office of a fictional fashion magazine, Blush, which is sort of supposed to be comparable to something like Vogue or Cosmo or something like that. And it's about several staff members at that magazine, at that magazine. And so you have the owner, Jack, and then his daughter, played by
the curmudgeonly George Siegel. He's not really curmudgeon.
No, he's actually he has a good presence. Good presence.
I like George Siegel. He's passed away now, but he's been a good character actor for many years.
Yeah, and his daughter was played by Laura San. Okay, so I'm going to try to pronounce it. Is it Laura San Giacomo or is it Laura San Giacomo?
No, I think it's Giacomo. Yeah, I think you're right.
Okay.
Yep.
I've heard people pronounce it Giacomo, and I've never.
She kind of faded. Like she hasn't been in anything in a while. I don't know what happened. She was doing pretty good. She was in Pretty Woman, and she had some other stuff.
She wasn't there. Down Under.
Yeah, like what happened?
Oh, no. Wasn't she on another? Was she on another? She was on Saving Grace. Remember that show?
Nope.
She was also on.
I'll take your word for it. Whatever. No, I guess I do remember something like that.
NCIS up until about a year or two ago. Also
NCIS. Yeah. Gotcha. Yeah.
But
sorry, there's actually some noise outside my house at the moment. There's plumbing going on, so if you hear anything, I apologize to our viewers.
Okay. Apology accepted from your co-host, and I'll apologize on behalf of you to all our viewers. The other notable. Well, we'll talk about David Spade in a minute, but you also have.
Yeah, I was going to say, what are your Oh, go ahead. Yeah, because you're talking about more people in it. Yep.
Yeah, I wanted Wendy Malick was the
Mm.
other, big star that was on this show. Big star, I say. I mean, she was in a lot of movies through the
She just had
'80s and
her
early
time,
'90s.
basically. You know how certain actors have their time where they've got a
Yes,
few years and they're just on some stuff. Like I first knew her from Dream On. You remember that show on HBO? I used to love
yes,
that show.
yes, yes. She was on that show. She was, yeah. Her, I would say her time was probably like late '80s to maybe like mid '90s, and then this. She was
Yeah.
also in The American President, which is a really good movie. She was in
Yep.
Bugsy, a little bit part in Bugsy. She was in Scrooged. So she was in like she had some some big stars probably a bit of a stretch, but
Yeah, just like
she
recognizable face is a more accurate way because you could recognize her at the time, like, oh, that's that lady in so and so, that thing.
yeah, and she's actually spoilers, but she's actually probably one of my favorite characters on this show, if not, she's probably my second favorite. And we're going to talk about my favorite character and probably yours too. And I'll let you do some riffing on David Spade.
Yeah, you can't get anything past the King of Smarm. He really nailed the whole Smarm thing. Like once he figured out that was his deal, he ran with it, and that's basically him on the show doing that thing. And I think the show itself, it's hard to know. My true feelings about the show is, it's like every show in the '90s would every producer, writer, whatever, when they're talking about inventing a show, the first thing they do is they go, where are they going to work? Because they all work somewhere, or where do they hang out, or whatever, and this one is the fashion magazine. So a lot of the choices feel kind of randomly like pulled, like, okay, so they probably started with David Spade, is my guess, because he was getting bigger and it's just easier to build a show around that kind of smarm, and then they
Mm-hmm.
just put the characters in place and then they put it on the network. That's, to me, that's the only problem with the show, is it does feel like it's just like artificially pulling the pieces, like putting it together as a puzzle and then just vomiting it out. So but as far as the writing and the jokes go, it's pretty good. It doesn't reach the level of like a Seinfeld or Friends or whatever, but it prevents it. It's got a cap on it. Prevents itself from going into like, that was dumb. You know what I'm saying? It's like right in that middle zone where you're like if you laugh a couple times during the show, it's like
I
like
like,
I
by the
didn't want to
way,
laugh.
I like the way you say smarm.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have a good delivery. You have a good smarm delivery.
Yeah.
Uh, you're like, thank you. um,
Yeah, it is I mean, David Spade made a career out of that. So, I
yeah, he
mean,
did.
that's impressive. So
He
that's my
did.
take on the show itself as a whole.
Yeah, I would agree with a lot of what you said. I first saw this show. Well, I'll tell you what. Do you want to before I give you my thoughts? Do
Yeah,
you want to hear the theme song?
let's do it. Yes,
And
absolutely.
then when we come back from that, I will share my thoughts of Just Shoot Me. All right, here we go. Oh, I think it does this first, and then it goes into the theme song. Now, here we go.
I don't care about schedules. I don't care about.
There we go. So there wasn't an opening theme song; it was only closing.
Bringing me back to you. Keeps bringing me home. It don't matter what I want to come. It's got a mind of its own. Life keeps bringing me back to you.
Um,
I love I love how
Sheryl
theme
Crow
music.
wrote the theme music. No, I'm just kidding. Like
Yeah,
that's
I love how the
is that
theme.
like
Yeah,
is
it's like they're trying to capture the timing of the like what's popular.
well
You
that
know,
was
so
Sheryl Crow was huge at that point. So that
yeah,
was because yeah, if you figure this came out in '97,
I love how like
then
theme songs always like want us to feel the way the show is. Like the if we're talking about David Spade and like it's like there's more than just him doing that thing. This whole show has sort of like a oh brother,
I think
you
the word
know,
you're looking for is irreverence.
oh, good one,
Hmm
nice.
Yeah. You- just this irreverent take on various different things. I mean, first of all, an irreverence on the fashion industry, but then also just irreverence in general. But all the characters are like you like to say, very smarmy, very snarky, very
Yeah,
sarcastic,
yeah,
and have that sort of vibe, which was definitely a comedy. You know, that was a comedic if you were putting together a sitcom in the late '90s, that's the kind of comedy that was, it probably started from things like Friends and Seinfeld,
yep.
and I think everybody started. Man, it's amazing how something comes out and then it just spawns all these copycats. Like you could probably say this is like a Friends or a Seinfeld uh,
Totally. That's really where
ripoff.
it comes from for sure. I think Seinfeld. I almost think people didn't even. They probably did try if we really go through it and see all the failed shows. I'm sure there's a lot copycats, but I think
Well, dude,
Friends was a
Seinfeld in the fashion industry.
yeah, but I think it's more like Friends
Yeah.
because I think Friends was a little bit easier of a map to follow. You know, people hanging out and being kind of jokey and Seinfeld was so unique. The what they built. I think I
hmm
know people tried to copy that, but I'm sure it was probably easier to be like, let's just try to copy Friends instead. Because I think Just Shoot Me does try to just build off of that thing, you know, and a lot of other shows did. And
Yeah.
you know, then obviously didn't make it that big, but you know,
Yeah, I will say though that I don't think this show has necessarily stood. I don't know if it's aged as well as some of those other shows that we've named, like Friends and Seinfeld,
yeah,
but I don't know that any shows have. I mean,
no shows have, yeah.
that's a very high bar to be in the same sentence as those two shows. But I think in its at its in, in its time, this show was
Mm-hmm.
pretty good. Like I actually
Had
really
some
enjoyed
decent
it.
ratings. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it actually I'll pull those up in a minute, but I think it did really well for a couple years. And I mean, a lot had to do with David Spade, but it's a pretty good cast. So
Like I
it's
said, I think they really did a good job keeping it from falling. You know, when certain shows, the quality of the jokes are get into the bad zone. They're not like it's not funny at all. I think it's
Mhm.
just it's like it has a good. They at least kept it from going to that level where it was like this is stupid because the show's not stupid. It's just not like crazy, awesome,
Mhm.
funny. You know.
Yeah. And this the episode that we watched in advance of this show was called The Assistant,
Uh-huh.
and it's got several different plots that are really running through it. There's the plot of uh, Wendy Malick's character. Already forgotten her name, but
Uh-huh.
uh, trying to battle a feminist on the air. There's I guess
Uh-huh.
the big sort of standout plot is that Maya, the daughter of George Siegel's character, hires an assistant, and it's played by Sherry O'Terry, who
Uh-huh.
was Saturday Night Live. And I almost wonder if the goal of this particular episode, the episode is called The Assistant. I kind of wonder if the purpose of this episode was to maybe launch Sherry O'Terry as a possible supporting character on the show, but she never came back. She only did this one episode.
Mm-hmm.
I think maybe it had been a maybe she did 2 episodes, but it was like maybe a part 1 and a part 2, and that's it. She never came back on
Yeah.
the show. What are
Yeah.
your thoughts on Sherry O'Terry?
I think she's pretty funny. I mean, this show, the script and the way, again, they're kind of like just pulling it, trying to really make it familiar for the audience in order for them to feel comfortable. So I don't think she's given a lot to work with. I mean, kind of, but it's pretty obvious right from the bat, right off the bat. You know, her character's like absent-minded, right? It's like there's nothing to work with,
Mm-hmm.
and she's just trying to get through the episode, just basically like everybody else, right? But it's not like she couldn't have done more. I think she could have, but I'm just kind of like, yeah, you know, right off the bat, you're like, she's a absent-minded. Why did they hire her? We don't know, but she's trying. The daughter's trying to prove that she can handle the situation, but Sherry O'Terry's character is so bad, she eventually has to fire her. You know, it's just right down the middle. All the food groups are represented.
It almost felt like they get to the end of the episode and it's like, okay, we've kind of done everything we can do with this character. Like,
yeah, that's why she never comes back.
And I think that's why she never comes back. Here's a really quick scene with her in it. It's very quick.
Death, stop by and say hello.
This is Sherry O'Terry here.
Death?
Uh-huh.
Death stopped by.
To say hello.
Was it Beth?
Could have been.
Was it a short redhead or a tall guy with a sickle?
It was Beth.
Okay.
Yeah, that was that.
Not bad. I mean, you know.
It's not bad, though. That's what I'm saying. It's
Yeah,
not
right,
like
it's not
getting to
bad.
the zone of like, that is so dumb. It's more like, how amusing, you know?
Exactly. I agree. Totally agree with you. I watched this show
Mm-hmm.
a lot, more than I
In
realized.
the beginning, I watched it for sure. I did not keep up with it, but I did
No,
watch
I
it at the
didn't
beginning.
and I think we probably both watched it for the sheer fact that David Spade was on it. But I think I remember
100%.
But I remember watching several episodes. Like I remember these
Yeah.
these characters were very familiar to me when I watched this particular one.
And I was
So it
rooting
was-
for this show too. I mean, I really
Yeah.
at the time, I think you and me and my brother Jarrett, we were all like rooting for shows to succeed because we wanted things to be good, you know. And so I remember being like, God, I hope it. I was like, oh, it's a new show with David Spade, and I think that's the way a lot of people felt. Like, oh man, it's gonna be good, and you know, it came out and it did its thing, and then it wrapped up.
There's you said rooting for a show to work. It made me think of how you and your brother rooted for working to work.
The working, which might end up being W.
Spoiler, we'll see. We've got a
Working
few
is a
weeks.
show, just so audience members, if you don't know, Working was a show with Fred Savage and the inner workings and have and have nots and of an office, you know, like the comings and goings and office jokes, sitcom. I don't know.
Well, we have 2 potential Fred Savage shows that start with W. We could do Working or we could do Wonder Years. I guess we'll have to flip a coin.
Yeah, I don't know. The Wonder Years is very special, so it almost doesn't fit into this theme.
That's true. That doesn't qualify as Lost.
And we could have done the Grinder or whatever it was, but that we passed G already. So
we passed G a few weeks ago. I don't even know what show you're talking about. So
remember it was. I'll remind you outside of this show.
Yeah, maybe that'll be a bonus weekend episode at some point.
That sounds about right. We should probably do that.
But yeah, so just shoot me. I put it kind of squarely in the middle. It was entertaining at the time. I think it probably has fallen off a little bit as far as how well it's aged, but I think most shows that came out around this time did. You know, this show reminds me a lot, and I actually I'm kind of embarrassed to say I almost commingled it with news radio. Like when I was thinking back to before we decided on this show for Jay, I was thinking back to it and I was like, oh no, wait, was that guy on Just Shoot Me? And then I was like, then I started watching this and I was like, oh, that guy must. And then I looked it up and I was like, oh, that guy was on news radio. So like I had
Yeah.
those shows
Well,
cross pollinated in my head somehow.
Well, the reason you're doing that is because that's exactly the humor and the writing and everything on that show in that middle zone is exactly what Just Shoot Me reminds me of. It's like
Think you're right.
exactly the same. They just they're like, this is another one, like news radio. What are they? Where are they going to work? Like a newsroom? Okay, so news radio.
Right.
Come on.
Right.
And they're like,
Right.
there's a crazy announcer. There's Dave Foley. We could try to get Dave Foley. He leads the team and he's the straight guy. I mean, they just, again, plug and play.
Yeah. And another iconic Saturday Night Live character on that, or actor from that show. So yeah, very similar in conception there.
100%.
Well,
How many sarcastic comments would you give this show?
I'm going to go 7 out of 10.
Okay, that's pretty good. I would probably rate it a little lower. I'm more of
Okay.
a 6. More of a 6.
Mm.
You know, I don't think I mean, if I was being really hard on it, I would say 5 to 5.5 sarcastic comments just for the plug and play element of it. But I think I should just like write it out on a 6 sarcastic comments.
That makes sense. I can get on board with that.
Yeah.
I'll stick with 7, and then we'll split the difference and give it an official have a strong weekend 6.5.
Nice.
All right. Well, I think we've exhausted this one.
Yeah. Just shoot me in more ways than one.
Well, if you want to follow us or subscribe, you know how to do that. Just click the button below to subscribe
You know what to
to our
do.
YouTube channel. Yeah, you know what to do. And come back next week. We've got a special episode for Special K, and we'll be back. Until then, have a strong
Have a strong weekend.
weekend.
Thanks, everybody.